Got a bunch of big games. Georgia, Tennessee. I made some predictions there. Ohio State, Purdue, Michigan, Penn State, OU, Baylor, Notre Dame at Virginia, and then we've got the Texas Longhorns doing some craziness. But first of all, Georgia going to Tennessee, it's 41-17. I called for Tennessee to be able to crack 20. The Georgia Bulldogs proved me wrong. Their defense is really good, but Josh Heupel, I did think, was able to do some things with going up tempo, doing some things in the passing game, where if other coaches see this, whether it's a Nick Saban, whether it's a Ryan Day, who have elite athletes, who have more depth, who can match up with Georgia a little bit better up front, there might be a way to kind of take advantage of that secondary somewhat and be able to get into them, wear down that front, and be able to put it to them. Remember, it was only 24-10 and a half. Georgia pours it on late, but I do like the fact that Tennessee didn't seem scared. They came out. The turnovers end up getting you, and Georgia just wears you down because they're so big, they're so physical, and it's eventually they start running the ball. They'll hit some play action with Bennett. But I do think that, this Georgia team, as good as they are, if they run into a situation where they have to score with people, it's going to be a problem. Their defense, but you got to get through that Georgia front. You have to find a way to block it up, and you have to find a way to run the ball enough to keep them honest. It's really tough to run against that Georgia Bulldogs front seven. I understand that. But you've got to find a way to do it enough to keep them off balance and then run some tempo. You get them gassed. Tennessee did a little bit of that, but they just didn't have the horses to be able to push it over the top. And you understand that. So while they didn't get to 20, they did score more points on Georgia than any other team this year. But Georgia wins comfortably, and they cover the number. Tennessee had a shot to maybe get a backdoor cover on it. Couldn't do it late in the game. Georgia Bulldogs take care of business. They're still the number one team in the country, and they're going to be that until they lose, which may or may not even happen. Ohio State, Purdue, game that I thought was going to be close. And what do I know? I guess the people in the desert, they're wealthy for a reason. They picked this game sitting around 3 touchdowns. It moved a little, 19-20. It was somewhere sitting 20 and a half, wherever you were looking. And there were some opportunities there. But Ohio State starts so fast. It's 35-7 before, heck, you feel like you could even sit down. This Buckeye offense looked a lot like it had been, from weeks 3, 4 through about 8. The last couple of weeks they had struggled. Wasn't great. Nebraska, Penn State playing some good defensive fronts, playing some good defenses. Purdue's defense isn't great, but they do have a very solid front. They've got some NFL caliber players, and I was curious to see if Ohio State would be able to run the ball. They have a better scoring defense statistically than the Buckeyes do. And so I wanted to see how they'd be able to do it. Ohio State hangs 59 on them. It felt like it could have been 80. They pulled it off. 361 with Stroud through the air, 263 on the ground. Mayan Williams is back, the meatball, pounding the football. Travion Henderson rips a long touchdown run. They have Garrett Wilson back in the fold after his concussion. 3 touchdowns, does a phenomenal job, and 1 rushing touchdown to throw in there as well. The running attack was better. I was happy to see that. And that goes in the fact that this offensive line played much better against Purdue than they had the last couple of weeks. That's big time ball for an offense that's been struggling. And struggling is a relative term, but struggling relative to expectations. They haven't necessarily met that mark. They did again on Saturday, did it in a huge way. And CJ Stroud, I've been someone that's given him grief for maybe not running the football when it's there. Played almost a flawless game. Threw the football really, really well. Didn't need to run it. There weren't opportunities to run it. The next 2 weeks, I'm trusting against Michigan State and Michigan when he has to run the football, CJ Stroud will make that decision. He'll tug it down. He doesn't need to get hit, but he'll tug it down, pull it, get what he needs to, get down or get out of bounds. Because now it's just all about winning with 2 weeks left in the season. But a great performance by Ohio State. A little bit of concern giving up 31 points. But against a team like Purdue, Jeff Brom is incredibly creative. I put him up there with Mike Leach, Lane Kiffin, some of these elite offensive play callers. And, when you have a big lead like that, we're going to give you yards. We'll allow you to have some points as long as you don't score too quickly. We just got to make sure that you don't score them, in 2 minutes. And so the Ohio State defense did that, did a pretty good job, and they held David Bell to right around 100 yards. Didn't have a massive impact on the game. Michigan, Penn State. A game that almost went to the Nittany Lions. They were at home. You could feel the energy. They took Michigan's best shots. Sean Clifford was a warrior for Penn State. Not the greatest statistical day you're going to find, but he got battered around, sacked well over 5 times, kept popping up off the ground, and did what he had to do. And he gave his team the lead, 17-14, 2-point conversion to Dotson, and you're feeling good about that if you're Penn State. And then all of a sudden, his defense lets him down. And I give this to Cade McNamara, Michigan's quarterback, who had 3 touchdowns on the day. They were without Blake Corum, half of their Thunder and Lightning combo. They had to lean on Hassan Haskins. He had about $150 on the ground. But without his running mate, you can see how this offense lacks explosion. But a great job by Cade McNamara dropping back, hitting their tight end all on a crosser, turns that thing for about 40 yards, finds pay dirt. And it was unfortunately too much for Penn State to recover from. So Michigan with Jim Harbaugh, they're sitting in a good spot. I believe they have Maryland coming up this week. We'll talk about that later. But they're in a good spot from where they need to be moving forward. They've structured themselves to where they win this week. They'll be facing Ohio State for a chance to go to the Big Ten championship game in Indy, something they have never done since it's been instituted. I've never made it. Michigan State's been there a couple of times. Michigan has not made it. And it's unbelievable to think that that's the case when it's been going on for a decade. So good job for Michigan. Penn State put up a valiant effort. They're sitting at 6-4. James Franklin, Jimmy Sexton. We'll see if he ends up going to USC. I don't know if that tarnishes, if it's kind of left him a little bit, if he doesn't have the shine that he used to. But if USC wants him, I think that they'll have a chance to get him, even though Penn State has this phenomenal recruiting class coming up. Biggest upset of the day, OU-Baylor. Game that was close early on. Baylor puts the pedal down. They pull away, and they're kicking a field goal late at the game, or at the end of the game. There's all kinds of rigmarole and nonsense going on. Texas leaving OU's leaving the field. Baylor, they're kicking an extra or field goal, and people are upset, and they're wondering why. And you hear Dave Aranda in the press conference afterwards, and this was something that, frankly, I didn't realize, that when they play this round robin type of conference schedule and you just take the 2 best teams, it's not division winners. One of their tiebreakers is point differential. And so when you have that, I'm not saying you're going to go try to run up the score, but if you have a chance to kick a field goal and add 3 more at the end of the game, when you're in a battle, like OU's most likely getting into the Big 12 championship game. I would have to check scenarios, but they'd have to struggle and lose, probably all 3 of their remaining games down the stretch, at least 1 more. Whereas, you see Baylor, they're fighting. Iowa State was fighting, even though they took a bad loss. You got Okie State, depending on what happens with them, and Oklahoma. And so it's a battle. It's a battle right there. So I understand why Dave Aranda did it. But, we just said this coming in the game. OU's ranked 8th. Everybody's complaining about it. And frankly, I thought they probably should have been ranked a little higher. But we said, hey, they have Baylor coming up, they have Iowa State, and they have Bedlam with Okie State. If they all take care of business, they win all those games, and those teams don't fall apart, they'll be catapulted right up there to where they need to be, and they'll have a shot to make the playoff. Now, I think that shot has kind of disappeared. The Baylor Bears took it to them. And now if you're a Baylor fan, you got to be curious, wondering, like Dave Aranda, he was the D coordinator at LSU under Ed Orgeron. They're looking for a new coach. The rumor is that I've heard, I thought they wanted an offensive guy, but people are maybe locking in on Dave Aranda after that big win. He's turned this Baylor team around. Heck, they might be ranked in the top 10 or right on the fringe this week. I think he's probably the next head coach at LSU if he wants the job.